Welcome to the 2026 Iconic Podcast. I am thrilled to be with you in my first solo episode to share some pretty exciting news, actually, and a space and place that I am really looking forward to owning. And so let me share with you what that all means. I am walking in and I've just crossed the threshold of my 20th year as an entrepreneur. And there's something really sweet about that, to know that the last 20 years have been the most beautiful time of my life. They hold so many memories. It has chiseled me into the woman I am today. And there's this little sliver, this little side of me that wonders, my gosh, 20 years, it's gone by so fast. What's to come? And there's a lot of nostalgia happening within my spirit, and I wanted to share that with you today. I really am going to own how 20 years of experience in this space is unheard of, that it's unparalleled. And I really do want to offer you the wisdom that holds, to be embodied in the wisdom that holds. And this is my opportunity to share some things with you today that I feel were really imperative to being here and celebrating my 20th year. 3 things that I promised myself when I first started. I was thinking almost of the question of what would you say to your younger self? There's not much advice actually I would give my younger self that I didn't say in that moment and provide in those younger years. But these 3 things really stand out for me, not from 20 years later, but how I sparked the career and why I believe I am here 20 years later. So when I started entrepreneurship, it really sparked from my daughter saying to me one day in the car, "Mommy, where are all the cars going?" And at the time I was a spin instructor. I'd left my marketing career to stay home with my now 2 kids. And my husband at the time was working a beautiful corporate career, and he was thriving. And so I was a little lost in who I was. I was in my very early 20s with 2 young kids. I felt like I was just starting to learn who I was, exploring the person that I was becoming. And there was this underlying hum and wonder. I didn't want to give up my time with them, but yet I also felt really like I was missing a portion of who I was, who I could become as a woman. I didn't know who I was as a woman. And so when she asked me that question, I remember responding with, "Well, I think this car's going to the grocery store, and this guy is going over here." And we're just making up. It was a make-believe game between the 2 of us. And she said, "No, Mommy, all the daddies go to work and all the mummies go to the gym." And that was one of those sliding door moments for me. Not that there was anything wrong with that, but what I felt internally was wanting to provide my daughter and my son with the evidence of anything is possible. I wanted her to see herself in this world with big eyes and a big spirit. And it wasn't that I was pulling away from that, but I knew I was meant for more. It rattled my spirit and really kind of made me feel uncomfortable with my experience. But I honestly felt, in order to be an exceptional mom, that I had to be fully present, that if I did something else, that I would be taking away from my kids. So this is the first lesson and realization that I had that I want to share with you that really changed the trajectory of my life. I realized I was buying into this old narrative for women that we had to sever some part of us in order to be successful in another area, that I wouldn't be able to be an exceptional mom and also grow a thriving career. Or if I chose to have a thriving career, somehow I was sacrificing my family, that these 2 worlds couldn't mesh together. And I decided to be the living evidence and proof that they could. I wondered if I could be the person for my daughter to show her that she could be all of herself, fully expressed, alive in her life without sacrificing anything. And so entrepreneurship, when I learned about it, felt like the perfect world, the best of both worlds, where I could be present with my children, build this alongside of them while also really developing who I was and setting goals and achieving new things and experiences. And it absolutely reigns true. So the first lesson is you don't have to sacrifice anything in order to have radical success in your life and your business. And as a matter of fact, I would challenge you to use your kids as the very reason why to go deep into your dreams and desires, because they have benefited so much as a result of my yes. It makes me a little emotional. We've traveled the world. They've done competitive sports. I have not had to say no to them. They have experienced things that I only could have fathomed at their age. And it was because I said yes to a business. In no way, shape, or form, if I took anything away in their lives, the only thing I can say with full confidence is I've added to their lives in response to going after something that was real for me. They've watched me grow. They've watched me fall down and pick myself back up again. They're the most tenacious human beings I've ever met because of the culture that I've created in our home because of entrepreneurship. And I think a lot of times we use our kids as a very valid excuse as to why not. But I would actually challenge you to use them as the very reason why, to go forward for them. They're watching what is possible for them as you go forward and really build your dreams and say yes to yourself over and over and over again. And it has been one of the greatest accountability partners in my entire journey. And I believe a big reason why I'm here 20 years later. I never wanted them to see me quit on myself or quit on our dreams, because this really did become a family business. The second thing that was really imperative to the sustainability in my business was I promised myself the day I decided to start entrepreneurship that I would never quit when I was down. I gave myself full permission to quit if the business was thriving and things were working really, really well. But I promised myself I would never quit during scarcity, fear, times when the business was dipping, times where I was not in belief. I just decided that in order to be different and in order to be successful, I have to make great decisions. And when I'm feeling emotionally charged because things are not working in my favor, or feel like there's some sort of resistance or hurdle or challenge, that's not the time to make a life-altering decision like giving up or burning it down, as a lot of people say. And so I swore to myself, I signed a contract with myself, a soul contract really, that I would not allow myself to ever give up, that I would move through every challenge, no matter how difficult it was, to get to the other side. And once on the other side, if I chose that it wasn't for me anymore, then that would be a very beautiful led decision. I wouldn't be reacting to my business, I'd be leading my business. And there have been more times than I can count, moments really, where I wanted to quit because it was hard, where business wasn't easy, where I felt like I was being kicked while I was down, where I really wondered if there would ever be another upswing, where my personal life was crumbling and it took everything in me just to show up. There was plenty of those moments. But because I signed that soul contract with myself and promised myself that not now, Jen, you can't quit today, it is the very thing that led me through to the other side. And the ironic part is, once you get to the other side and start savoring success, you don't want to quit then either. So it's really holding yourself accountable to leading your dream, your vision, and leading yourself through the crucial, difficult times, because that's when you're chiseled into a leader that can be entrusted in more. And the third thing, and I find this really fascinating in the culture we live in now, is I remember thinking I would treat this like I was going back to university to get a degree. I thought I will give myself 5 years. 5 years to reach, and hear me out, $2,000 a month. I thought in 5 years from now, I was a stay-at-home mom. If I could reach $2,000 a month, that would be life-changing. I would have my own income. I would be able to contribute somewhat to the family. That felt to me like freedom money. And we live in a culture now where all we talk about is millions. And anything below that feels like what? A failure, or we're not doing enough, or we're not successful enough. I mean, imagine right now, like look in the mirror. Imagine if you said to yourself, I'm going to give myself 5 years to reach $2,000 a month in income. I think we giggle, but then I also wonder how much truth and stability and stick-to-itness would come through you and for you if you gave yourself that promise. It doesn't have to be 2,000, you can pick a number, but I love what I did for 2 reasons. First of all is the length of time I gave myself. It wasn't 5 days, it wasn't 5 months, it wasn't 1 year, it was 5 years. And I also really appreciate how I saw $2,000 a month as a freedom number. I wasn't trying to chase anything. Instead, I was trying to change my life. And I knew that that number would do that. The interesting part of this as well that I didn't realize at the time, but sort of figured out this analogy that if I was going back to school, that would require time. So I would have to go to classes or do homework. So I knew as a stay-at-home mom in that moment, I had to create time in my calendar as though I was going to school. So I promised myself from 7 to 9 p.m. every single day that that would be uninterrupted time. And I set my life up for success. Just a fun little fact, I asked their dad, my husband at the time, to do bath time and spend some time with him after work, which gave me the flexibility and freedom to really focus in on my business. But I did that purposefully, because I couldn't go to school and get a university degree and not go to class and not put time in. So it just made sense to me. The other thing was I knew I would have to pay tuition. So if I'm going back to school to get a degree, I can't go to the college or university and say, do you mind if I just pay in installments or go on a payment plan, or, I can't really afford this. Is there anything we could do? There's no negotiation with a tuition fee. You've got to pay the tuition and find a way, be resourceful in order to get yourself in the door and into the classroom. And I knew, being an entrepreneur, there was going to be investment. I would have to spend money in order to set myself up for success. So I wasn't surprised by those things. And I think it's an important thing for you to realize too, I didn't have any money. I didn't even have a credit card in my own name at the time. And my spouse at the time wasn't supportive. He wasn't excited about this idea. So I had to become very resourceful, and I got scrappy, and I found ways in order to create some income for myself so that I could invest in my business and get myself going. But I just sit here and think about the conversations that I have with so many founders now who want to do things by skipping corners and having to do as little as possible for the greatest reward. And I desire that you hear from me that I was willing to go in the deep end from the beginning. I wasn't skipping corners. I was looking at this honestly, what it was going to take. It's going to take time, it's going to take money, and it's also going to take effort and studying and being a student. I had never been an entrepreneur before. I think for many of us, we've never been in the situation we're in, or had a business like we have today. We're sort of in unknown territory. So I also realized I would have to study and I would have to learn. So I surrounded myself with opportunities to do that, mentorship and reading and podcasts. I immersed myself in the learning so that I could fast track and really become an expert as quickly as I could. Again, I feel like that's neglected often this day and age because we're so used to things happening quickly. We're so used to picking up our phone and getting that quick dopamine hit. We've forgotten the art of actually taking our time and going deep into something, being thoughtful around concepts, ideas. I think we consume and we don't necessarily think anymore. And I'm really grateful that I held myself accountable to that. So think about this. You're starting a year. What if instead of you saying, by the end of this year, I better be making X amount of dollars or I'm out? I don't know if that's the best way to start a year. I'm just going to be honest with you. That's a lot of force, a lot of pressure. What if it took you 1 year and 1 month and you quit right before you had that shift? What if instead you gave it 5 years? What if instead you said, for the next 5 years, I'm going to treat myself and my business like I'm going back to school and getting a degree. I'm going to put in the time, I'm going to put in the money, I'm going to put in the personal investment to learn everything I can and become great, because that's what I would have to do if I went back to school. I'm going to treat my business in that way. I'm going to live that analogy. I'm not going to think about my kids being the reason why I can't do this, and instead I'm going to use them as the very reason why I should do this. And also I'm going to promise myself that moving forward in this year and beyond, I will never quit when I am down. I will give myself full permission to pivot, change, shift, quote unquote, burn it down when I'm up, but I will not be the person that quits when things get hard. Because who you become on the other side of hard is the best gift of all. 20 years later, when I think about being an entrepreneur, sure, there's been holidays and a beautiful home and gorgeous experiences and income beyond my wildest dreams. You better believe I hit $2,000 a month well before the 5-year mark. But I also remember who I was in that moment. And I'm so grateful because she did not fathom the type of income that is possible for her today. It wasn't even in the ballpark for me. But I am so deeply grateful for the ability to lead my dreams. And I challenge you to do the same. Stop forcing and pressuring results and be the woman behind the business that paces this, leads this, walks this in a way that she knows success is inevitable because she can believe in herself enough. And if you do these things, you will have not only the best year of your life, but best future and beyond anything of your wildest dreams. So 20 years wise, this is what I'd love to offer you because it's filled with rich, meaningful information, ideas, and really strategies, if I can call them that, for you to be successful. Stop putting barriers and boundaries and glass ceilings on yourself and instead just do what it takes today. And you'll thank me in 20 years from now.